only Cathy Saldaña. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Set it up. Good afternoon, everyone. Very pleased to be here. My last talk for this festival for this year. We had a raw dialogue yesterday, a workshop today, a panel also yesterday on future cities, smart cities. And it's our pleasure and a privilege and an honor to be here in front of you this afternoon. So PDP Architects stands for People, Design, Places. And our work involves not just work here, but also some work out of the country. We do quite a lot of resorts, island developments, retail mixed use, high rises. So welcome to this talk. We're going to discuss a little bit about an architecture journey. So this slot was originally assigned to Jason, but good friend of ours from Hong Kong, and immigration did not allow him to enter because of the whole virus situation. But we here in Anthology try to make things work with situations like this, so we all pitched in. All right? So an architect's work journey is all about building structures and also building relationships. So in this country, it's very important, really, to do tropical design. Not just because of the climate, but because this is really what works. And you can modernize it. And so that is how we got started on a lot of the projects that we were doing. One of the goals for this particular talk is to inspire the young architects in their practice, as well as our foreign counterparts who are here also and being part of the building industry. I began my career journey as a student leader at the University of the Philippines in Diliman. As an architecture student, I became the college representative to the University Student Council. And speaking in front of students earlier for a workshop, I discovered that quite a lot of the students that we have here in Anthology also have that strong student leadership background, being active in student councils from where they are. So it's good. Being resourceful is an element of having graduated from the UP, where you're not spoon-fed, but you are just given your homework and you are made to find your way in the library, go research out in government agencies, and to find other resources. Back then, when we were studying, there was no internet yet. So you are now very fortunate, young architecture students and young professionals, in your pursuit to understand and use technology to aid you in your practice. The global outlook is the most important thing that you should have. When Filipino architects say that they don't want to have foreign architects onshore, you have it all wrong. To be nationalistic is to be global. I see some thumbs up right there. Yes. To be nationalistic is to also be international. And to be international is to welcome our foreign architects to our country to co-practice and to collaborate with us. That is what will make us work. That is what will bring international design through our partnerships and our collaborations. This is something that we strongly encourage. Being an active member of the United Architects of the Philippines, I once participated in a panel where I was on the side of foreign architects, and there were those who were saying, no foreign architects should practice here. I said that foreign architects should practice just as we are also allowed to design and co-design with them in other countries, because that out-of-the-box thinking, that sense of objectivity, that fresh perspective comes from somebody looking at the Philippines on an outside point of view. I'm also welcoming good friends to join us here, as well as my colleagues at the PDP Architects. Welcome to our teams. Welcome, Ali, one of the most big-time architects in the world, right here, Jean. So with 150,000 followers on Instagram, these guys are the best. especially when they eat balut with us and drink tequila, like last night. So global outlook, everyone, is so vital. And whenever we architects take on a role for designing, it is always necessary that we look at master planning as well. We should never compartmentalize design and architecture and say, oh no, I'm not involved in this, I'm not involved in planning. You are. Whether there's another urban planner or master planner in the picture, you still have a big role in the bigger scheme of things to make sure that your architectural design fits really well into the whole plan. In every concept, in every design, what is important? It's the architect's role in storytelling. You have to have that design story all finalized and all fixed. Otherwise, you don't get what is the rationale of what makes your building or your design tick. We honor architect Joey Yupanco over there. Thank you for joining us. So once again, other pillars here in design in the Philippines. And it's vital for you to look not just at design for communities and low cost, but also look at high-end design, because it's easier for you to look at luxury and trickle down than for you to keep looking at low cost and elevate it. It's easier for you to pair and to strip and to cut rather than for you to start with something on the low cost planning and elevate it. It's very difficult. Once you have a client on a level of luxury, you cannot articulate. So always look at something bigger, something higher, something more expensive, and then trim it down. Then you realize, hey, I could provide luxury that's more affordable. Hey, I could provide the attributes of a really nice building at a lower cost. And I could cater to a middle market as a result of that. So look at high end and then cut it down. Understand as well, when you're working here in the Philippines, that you must have a good comprehension of the cross-section of Philippine society. We're very proud to have here with us Jean from France, who's now practicing here in the Philippines on design. And he's understanding, say, not just the elements of sustainability in the tropics, but also to see the different social strata, the different industry sectors of the country, and how best to address the problems as an architect. Certainly, one of the biggest concerns that we have in this country of ours is the demand for housing has not been met. For public housing has not been realized for many governments now. And up to now, our backlog is still way behind attainable. And so because of this, we should look offshore and understand what are the solutions. Is it prefabrication modules? Is it solar panels? What are the innovations that we should introduce? Because this still remains to be, along with major infrastructure, to be our biggest problem. Another concern that we have as an architect is valuing the fact that we as Filipinos are really strong at construction detailing. And it's one of the best. You go to the offices of SOM in New York, you go to KPF, somewhere in one corner, you will find a Filipino who is doing good detailing for buildability to be able to ensure that the structure will stand beyond just the concept. Understand as well the values of several Republic Acts as well as laws of the country that play a vital role in the practice. Know your building codes, but always we emphasize not just to the students that we speak with, nor the and aside from the young architects that we work with, we also emphasize this to our clients. Go beyond building codes, because building codes are minimum. Give it your best shot. If the minimum says 2.1 meters for a door height, if you're doing a hotel, go higher. If you're doing luxury, go even better. And once again, as designers, build up that confidence in your team and with your clients. Understand and respect the building laws, also internationally. I always encourage our younger members of our teams to read up on the IBC, the International Building Code, because this is vital for you to understand how is it out there that, say, in Singapore, their shopping centers are differently designed because they have different standards. And it allows you to see what they are doing in France, in the US, in other parts of Europe, in Singapore, in Malaysia, and bring in the best practices to the country. And then once again, to the students here present, your thesis presentation becomes your best rehearsal for life. Because once you're an architect, you are doing a thesis presentation almost every day to your clients. And take note that another law, the PP 220, is for low-cost housing, and it's vital for you to understand these requirements for the country. And being Filipino is important. Appreciate your roots, but take it to the next level. It's not always the literal bahay kubo interpretation, but take it to the next level of modern architecture design. So, I would like to discuss with you various industry and practice sectors that we're currently working on, as well as what is popular now in the country for among architects to do. Retail and mixed use, of course, because what is happening now, aside from congestion, we are building satellite communities that are standalone wherever they are. You're from Ayala, Alabang, you're from Alabang, you don't really need to go to Makati anymore. Cebu lives on its own. Davao is thriving on its own, Iloilo as well, and many other cities. And as a result, you have a lot of retail and mixed-use communities. Healthcare is one of the most exciting aspects of the architecture practice now. St. Luke's Global, currently nominated among the top 20 in the world, is now building in Davao very soon. So we have excellent healthcare coming to Mindanao shortly. Corporate and banking projects are still very wild, and there's so much going on, especially now with a lot of foreign companies expanding and Filipino entrepreneurial spirit translating into a lot of work. Most of the shared spaces, the collaborative spaces, say from London, such as WeWork, are also here now in the Philippines. So you have a lot of these new ideas, including new work share spaces like Common Ground, all rising in different parts of the metropolis. Aviation and transportation is one of the strongest components of the Build, Build, Build program of this government. As a result, there are also a lot of interesting opportunities for everybody on aviation. Our company did 2 airports already for a private sector, and I believe that there is more out there for you guys to do, both with the government and with the private sector. Cultural and civic projects are also rising. The awareness on art. The Philippine Art Fair is now one of the most popular in the world, and it's coming up soon in Makati. We also have other art fairs happening in other parts of the country, and as a result, people are also building museums. Private collections are amassing their own art, and as a result, are housing them now in good museums for you to see. Iloilo has a wonderful museum and an art collection as a great example. Our office is busy doing a lot of island development. We are trying to spread the word, not just to designers and clients, but also to contractors, how to properly build, how to properly practice sustainability whenever you do islands and resorts. And as a result of that, quite a lot of these projects are on hospitality, also on industrial and logistics, because some of our clients now are trying to reach out to far-flung areas where farmers are, and they're now able to build warehouses and cold storage facilities for fish, for farm produce, for rice, and this will help not just the farmers, but also the general market, both locally and abroad. There is also a big burst of spreading projects now in the academic sector. Quite a lot of opportunities for everybody in school design, and seeing now that the Philippines has followed the K-12 standard, we are also seeing renovations both in international as well as public schools. Once again, sports. Sports now is starting to grow actively, even in Visayas and in Mindanao. You see a lot of good stadiums in Metro Manila. You have the Philippine Arena in Bulacan. but there are now new ones being built outside of Metro Manila and Luzon. So we invite our foreign counterparts to take an active role with local architects in harnessing your talent for all these projects combined. Also, there's quite a lot of opportunities on high-rises and tall buildings. With the Philippines' price of land also increasing in major cities, we are seeing that it is best to go vertical, but make sure that earthquake design is a good component of your work. There are other structures and specialty design practices that you can enter into. And being a design specialist also allows you to have more opportunities because you are recognized to be really good at this. So right now, the field of medical planning is being opened in the country. Peer reviewers are already coming in from Singapore to take a look at the projects of the Philippines. We have specialists now for acoustics and lighting, and they're enjoying the income and all the many potential channels that are coming their way. Amusement and recreation is also very important to the Philippines. We are a very family-oriented culture, and Sundays for us would mean either going to the park, which is now a mall. It used to be during the Spanish times here, the paseo is the plaza, but now the paseo is the shopping mall. Air-conditioned, you eat there, you shop there, we've got it all for you. You got it. And then, aside from that, we are discovering that we are getting a lot of water parks and theme parks. But I do have a little voice that I'd like to amplify here when it comes to these theme parks. You know, in Coron, in Palawan, in the most pristine beaches in the world, some very prominent civic groups decided to stop the construction of Nickelodeon. And I was one of those who signed on the petition because you're talking about very beautiful, virgin, pristine coral reefs and excellent beaches, and then you're going to create everything artificial underneath. We're thinking of creating an underwater attraction that's all plastic, that's all metal. And in the Malay word, sayang. You know, you're not supposed to waste it. So I'm glad that those things are not built anymore and that we may and we should have a standard as well on how we build on our islands. There was an investor one time who wanted to build a resort on the edges and on the fringes of Taal volcano. Can you imagine if he really got his building permit? Wow, all that billions of investments literally thrown up in lava. So up in flames. So we should have standards. Every mayor in the country must know that you cannot approve every project. You always have to consider the environment in mind, not just demand, not just profitability. And this is the kind of message that we always want to amplify. Of course, everywhere in this country, demand for residential is so high. I overemphasized low-cost housing earlier. But aside from that, you know, our developers here who are doing luxury and upscale housing, upscale condos, subdivisions, all gobbled up. Even as they are just starting to break ground, even as they just put up the borders on the job site, all sold out. Penthouses sold for 400 million pesos. You'll be surprised. It's an interesting country. You know, there is something going on. There is that luxury market that you must recognize. There is something there. There is spending power. And when you tackle that, you have that 10% luxury residential market. You have a larger 80% affordable market. And then you have another 10 to 15%, say, middle-income housing. So between 70, 75 to 80, you have affordable. Around 10 to 15, you have middle income. And you have it at all stages, whether it's vertical or sprawling townhouses or house and lot subdivisions. Other opportunities for design. Many ideas for you to think of, many channels for you to propose to. And of course, liturgical. Largest Catholic country in Southeast Asia, in Asia Pacific. We're still waiting until the next Catholic Pope comes from our country. But yes, everywhere around the world, we have liturgical sites here in the Philippines. Ladies and gentlemen, you go to Europe even. And during Sunday, the churches are filled by Filipinos. So liturgical architecture is spreading all over the country. Yesterday, we had here with us architect Stephanie Giles, and she now put together a committee of liturgical architects all over the country to kind of come up with standards on how you should do it properly and get approval from the diocese because you're designing liturgical facilities correctly. So yes, there is that aspect as well. Plus, I always like it when you do modern design and liturgical architecture because I believe that you can meditate more and reflect more in a very clean, modern, spiritual environment. Commercial and retail malls, highlighted here on screen as among the hottest projects that you can do here in this country. And when you look at our shopping malls, you will understand, wait, where are all these people coming from? You know, I have family in Texas, in the US, and every time I visit my brother, I go to the shopping mall, and sometimes I tell him, how can these malls make money? I sat here on this bench, and there were only about 10, 15 people who passed by in the last 20 minutes. Over in Asia, and particularly in the Philippines, no matter where you build a shopping mall, there's always people anywhere, even if the next mall is about less than a kilometer away. It's amazing. So I guess it's really because of the total number of people that we have, plus our economy that's growing and the spending power that's increasing, plus the overflow of our overseas foreign workers' money. There is something going on about retail mixed use and retail design here. Another opportunity for you architects. And then, once again, growth in science and technology. We saw on our news feeds just last week how China, in Wuhan, they were able to do a hospital in 10 days. This is something that we need in this country. We need good science and technology facilities and good research and development facilities. And not only do we need them, we also need good designers to think of how they must be designed and how they must be built. Not just properly, but also quickly, because the demand is strong. So once again, another industry opportunity. And because of that, arts and museums, heritage and restoration, these are two important aspects of the practice. I'm very happy that the mayor of the city of Manila has taken to preserving heritage areas in this beautiful old city. Like, for example, they recently restored one of the bridges back to its old glory, down to the last lamppost, which they essentially restored to what it originally looked like. So these kind of European practices are now happening here. We are studying from the French, from the Spanish, and this is something that our specialists must once again teach and emphasize so that all over the country, this kind of discipline must be established. On our side, our company, we worked on restoring the former U.S. Army Navy Club, the leisure club of the Americans back in the 50s. We renovated it and made it into a boutique hotel, but we made sure that we preserved all the exterior and about 50% of what was remaining of the interiors. Planning and urban design is essential, but with a lack of standards here in this country, it's important for us to create our own and to come up with new CLUP programs, comprehensive land use plans, that are, number one, authentic and viable, and number two, feasible and practical. We need to ensure that they can work. And number three, we also need to ensure that these new CLUPs will respect the environment and the people. Sustainability is a very big word. And just 3 hours ago, I was in a workshop that I conducted for PDP Architects together with about 50 participants in one of the tents earlier. It's very successful because basically what we did was we simplified the definitions of sustainability for architects by narrowing down the definitions to the 17 goals established by the UN. The UN SDG, Sustainable Development Goals, which everybody can check on their phones. You can research on the internet. They have their own Instagram page, UN hashtag SDG 17. And when we started the workshop at 1 p.m., I asked, is anybody here aware of the 17 goals of the UN for sustainable development? Nobody raised their hand. But after the 3-hour workshop, everybody understood what it was, and our company printed the 17 posters of the UN, and we had our own pictorial over there, which is great. And now we're going to spread this over to the United Nations Instagram pages and the Sustainable Development Goals, and let them understand that we in the Philippines know now what we're doing. And in an architect's work journey, I just wanted to emphasize that it's important for you to think, what is your mission and vision statement? What is your branding? What is your core that can become the established founding principle of how you would work, and what would your architectural practice be all about? And for us, these are understanding and emphasizing our own design thinking, standing here in front of esteemed people like you to give our inputs for strategic thought leadership, building women. You know, even in our competitions, and we work a lot on high-rises, it's still male-dominated, but I would always encourage women to rise to the occasion and work alongside men and find your seat and circle of respect. And believe me, it's out there. You just have to claim it. I see you nodding. Claim it, okay? And be proudly Asian. Be proudly Asian because we have our European and American counterparts working with us, being with us, guiding us, teaching us, sharing with us, learning with them. They learn from us too, and be proud. It's our century now. Of course, we started a century and the decade with the virus, right? From our part of the world, but wow, what a great bang, and certainly such noise we did create with the coronavirus. Our company is particularly noted for hospitality design. So find your niche, find your specialization, understand what you're strong at, and be really good at it. Never ever think that sustainable design is a trend. Never think that, oh, it's just a feature. All of your work has to have this embedded into your drawings, into your plans, into your concepts, into your conversations and meetings with clients. Never think that you are a draftsman when you are working, collaborating with foreign groups, because architectural outsourcing allows you to participate in big pictures. It allows your teams to understand how it is to work on a large high-rise in Dubai, on a beautiful, massive township in China, or a great commercial building connected to a transport station in Paris. Know how to see and to understand what your role is in the larger picture of things, and then, because of that, you will develop further as an architect. Never be afraid to sell. An architect must always communicate. Between two very talented, intelligent architects, it's the one who can speak and articulate that will win. Never forget that you can sell. And with technology now, you guys, especially the young ones, Ali here is not exactly young, but if 150,000 Instagram followers, that in itself is a great selling point. You have the world looking at your work. You have the world watching your every move. Use that voice, amplify it for the better, for good. Use it, use your position and your platform to share good ideas and to make the world a better place. Understand as well that when you're running a business, you have to run it well. Corporate governance is so important. I know some people who did not pay taxes properly, who did not take government regulations seriously. And no matter how much talent you have, when you are not cooperating the greater scheme of things legally, that's not right. So it's also important for us. We architects are very strong visually, but learn how to communicate orally and narratively. Writing is a skill that you should develop and harness. And alongside writing, reading is very important. You can be a good writer when you are a good, voracious reader. All the time. It works hand in hand. And once again, I keep emphasizing being Filipino. This is so important to you, to us. Create a niche and develop your expertise. Learn also how to define what success means to you. Success, Ali can tell me this, is also about earning the respect and the esteem. You win awards, you win recognition, you get 150,000 followers, not just professionals, but students, the developers from all over the world. You know, Jean here knows and understands that he's well respected in France, but now he's well respected in the Philippines. It's important for you to gain that level of prestige, but along that prestige also comes integrity. You speak the truth, especially when you speak before a crowd. You never claim what is not yours. You never claim to be something that you are not. You never claim the portfolio of others. Success is also about financial stability. No matter how creative you are, if you cannot pay your workers, if you cannot make it to payroll, if you're not earning well, you will not thrive. You have to be able to afford a plane ticket so that you can travel and so that you can learn other things from all over the world. You have to be able to afford technologies. It is important for us to be savvy as well in finances. And a lot of us architects sometimes are lacking in this. We need good managers. Like our COO is my husband. So for the company, training is essential to professional growth. Never stop being a mentor. And don't be afraid to get fresh graduates because sometimes the wildest ideas come from the youngest of minds. It's important as well to do diversification. Don't stray too far from the building industry. But I know a lot of successful architects who are embarking on their own developments or their own real estate investments or are probably doing backward integration by becoming contractors or becoming suppliers, doing forward integration by becoming their own clients, by building their own buildings. And it's allowing them to get more financial success. Once again, the overemphasis on integrity here is essential for you to put forth your name. And keep in mind as well that media is good, but you never seek publicity. Publicity comes to you, especially when you have good work. Lead by example. Lead by example not just in your firm, but lead by example in the community. Lead by example in the building industry. Lead by example in the academe. And always, always make time to teach other people to grow. And this is one of the reasons why to us, Anthology is so important. Because this is the only festival in the country and in Southeast Asia that gathers not just professionals, but also students. And everyone is treated equally, except that the students don't have to line up for CPD points. But even other industry professionals, suppliers, everyone is treated equally and everyone can learn. Co-mingling, co-learning, sharing. So the many facets of our practice are architecture, interior design, planning, project management, construction, and allied fields. We integrate everyone. As architects, we've been trained. You can be a project manager, you can go into construction, you can go into ID, especially specialize, you can specialize further in planning, and therefore you can become an architect planner. So these are the different avenues for you. I talked about backward integration earlier. This is when you become your own supplier. That's when you become an architect contractor. Or you go into millwork, you go into joinery, you go into sash works. You specialize in a particular way of doing things. For example, we have architects who specialize in bamboo construction, or architects who are specializing in surfaces. And then you also have forward integration, which is when you become your client already. You are already the architect who is doing development. You are already the architect who is a real estate innovator. And it's really important for us to know that as architects, we are builders. But when we are builders, we're not just builders of structures, we are builders of relationships. And as such, it's important for you to manage your relationships by building a strong network, by managing expectations with your clients and with your suppliers and with your peers in the industry, by establishing a reputation in your communities and locally and abroad, earning a name, by obtaining clients in the best professional and ethical way, and most importantly, by growing through referrals, which is also called performance marketing. Performance marketing is the best way for you to grow your practice because your work speaks for themselves. And you see, it's still all about people. It's still all about working with contractors. Never look down on your suppliers. Your suppliers are your partners. Your contractors are not just your friends, but they will help you move things faster. I know historically here of architects in the country, and I'm sure Jean can tell you there are those also in France with tempers. You know, there was an architect here before who would bring a gun to the job site. He would not shoot people, but he would shoot a wall if it's not aligned. Do you really need to do that? No, you don't need to create enemies or to be too feared. You just need to communicate well. Build that relationship by being people-centered. Build a good network by not speaking ill of others. Part of our code of ethics is to only handle and manage and do constructive criticism. It has its limits. Work with engineers. Sure, a lot of civil engineers may not be civil. They're not friendly. They're very arrogant towards architects, especially when we insist that the beam must be this of height only, or, oh no, I really insist that you do a 12-meter span without a column in the middle. And we give them a headache. But our civil engineers are our partners too, as well as consultants. Earlier, I mentioned about the opportunities here in this country for lighting, acoustics consultants, heritage consultants. Work with them. Create your network of people. And be strong. Be good to the general public. Serve. And then that way, you become a better architect. Because at the end of the day, it's still really all about people. It's not your ego. It's not how beautiful your rendering is, how nice your concrete finish is. Design is still all about people. And when you build your business, focus on branding. Focus on the intrinsic, subtle art of selling. Understand that you as an architect you have that story to tell. Understand that communication is graphical, oral, and narrative. Understand that there is value in your portfolio and that when somebody as big as AECOM or ADAS knocks on your door, it's because they're not buying your equipment or your people, they're buying your portfolio. That has value. Your history, your track record, and your name. And in light of your name, protect it always with your good core values and your ethics. Emphasize as well that whether you're male or female, strength and grit are so essential because this is one of the professions where it is so easy to give up. Sometimes projects stop. Sometimes the budgets are so frustratingly low. Sometimes they don't understand you. You know, why do architects wear black? Because we don't want to think anymore what we're going to wear to work because we're already thinking of so many elements of design. Have that strength, have that grit, that when they say, no, pick another finish, work on another facade for me, don't give up. Understand as well that you have what it takes to disrupt the industry, to create something new, to innovate, and therefore produce something different. That is disruption. And in innovation, there is always room for change. There's always room for advancement, especially if you utilize technology for design. And then, never skip prudent financial management. I keep emphasizing this to architects to keep your success. And beyond the architecture curriculum, understand that you need to read up instead of spending too much time seeing what are people eating, where did they go yesterday. read up on business management, read up on what it does, on what efficiency and effectivity is in an architecture practice. Read up more on partnering and collaboration. Don't be afraid to step outside of your borders and cross hands and shake hands with people from all over the world, both for work here and abroad. And always be careful when you select your consultants, because it's not just you who creates that success. The success of a project is also who your other team members are. This is what the Philippines is about right now. It's a who, what, where, when, and why. We are sitting in probably what is now recognized as the Ring of Fire. We are right smack in front of Asia Pacific's strongest currents, the Pacific Ocean. We're facing some threats in the West Philippine Sea. And yet, our environment now is most fragile. Why? Because our tourism is just really picking up. We are where Thailand was 25 years ago. And we architects can help shape the tourism facilities and the commercial and retail and residential communities all over our fragile islands if we do things right and correctly for sustainability for the environment. I know we have more than 7,107 islands, especially with low tide, but learn how to build properly in that. Know that this is our century, the 21st century. Claim it, build well. And understand that we have much to do for the UN SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals for 2030, which was the deadline set by the United Nations. Understand as well that with the advent of technology, balance it with humanism. So this is our practice. These are our learnings. And thank you so much for allowing us to share. In behalf of Jason, who was also about to share his journey. We shared our journey with you, which is basically also his journey. We took note of what he wanted to say and the message that he wanted to convey to you. And our two companies are Collaboration Authority and PDP Architects. Let's stay in touch. Thank you very much.
Hello, hello, hello. Thank you so much, Miss Cathy, for your speech.